We'd like to thank everybody for joining us in our producerless show today.
This is going to be really bare bones tonight, everyone. This is going to remind those of you who were around of some of our first episodes.
Except I'd like to say maybe a little better video quality, a little better audio quality. Maybe we'll make up for...
we know what we're doing now.
Yeah.
A little bit more than we did. We're still refreshing the viewer list, but that's okay. We'll get there in a second.
And I've got trivia.
We've got trivia.
Yes, I've got trivia.
Nice. Well, let's do the welcome. Should we fake the music or?
Sure. You fake the music, and I'll say I'll do the voice. All right, live from Dogleg Studios in Fort Worth, Texas. It's You Can't Brew That on Television.
Good evening, Internet, and welcome to Fort Worth, Texas, Dogleg Brewery for another exciting episode of You Can't Brew That on Television. We are your hosts,
Ryan Bondo,
the Reverend Ryan Bondo, apparently, and crappy Kyle LaPointe.
That's me.
We're going to go with some alliteration for Kyle tonight. We've got some Oktoberfest beer.
Another one.
Very exciting.
Third week straight.
This is another week of Oktoberfest here at Dogleg Brewery. We've got some harrowing tales of beer pouring and beer drinking from the crappy Kyle.
From the crappy Kyle.
From
That's
the crappy
me.
Kyle.
We better get
We've
to
got
pouring.
some trivia.
Hey.
Oh,
St. Arnold's and
twists.
Twisties.
Ow.
You got to have semi-strong, manly hands to be able to open that.
Apparently
Would you
so.
like the bottle opener?
I would, actually.
All right, well, I'd like everybody to open their bottles of St. Arnold's and enjoy this beer with us. And while we're pouring St. Arnold's Oktoberfest, I've got a question for Bono about what he thinks about this beer. And we'll go on to the trivia just as soon as we discuss that.
I actually did.
Oh, man, the plastic one does not open very well.
Oh, what? Mr. Man-Hands? You need...
The plastic one does not open so well. Apparently melting the cap
I'm not even
through
trying
plastic.
anymore. I apparently have big-time weakling hands. We actually tasted this beer before the show, and both of us caught something interesting in this. And you know, we like to be honest about the beers that we're drinking. And actually, that sounds like I'm building up to saying this is a horrible beer, so I'm going to back off of that. This is a really good beer, everyone. It's very good.
You know,
But, you know, we talk a lot about beer styles.
styles?
Beer
styles!
Beer styles. We talk a lot about beer styles. We talk a lot about beer styles and hitting the BJCP guidelines.
That was
some sprockets in honor of the Germans who supposedly made this beer. And this particular style is supposed to be, we've talked about it here in the last couple of weeks, it's supposed to be very well attenuated, it's supposed to be very, very clean and crisp. And
it is.
this particular style...
It's very clean.
I think it's very clean, but it's a little too sweet, I think. There's a lot more residual sweetness in there than there really needs to be.
Yep. And on that note, okay, we're getting a little more residual sweetness. I'd like to say, I'll point out a few things that I noticed. Low in the melanoidins, and low in the nutty flavor. Those two things are almost vacant from this beer. So, that being said, that brings us to our trivia. In what category did this beer place a silver medal at this year's GABF?
This is totally going to be a trick question because I don't want to say Oktoberfest. Oh my gosh, that's the only thing I could guess, though, other than maybe like an American Amber.
That's not a bad guess.
I could almost see this as an American Amber. Teddy's going to go with an American Brown.
An English Brown.
American
She's going to go.
or
No,
English
she's going
Brown?
with English Brown.
Well, she is Dillingham, so they're all about. That's all English.
As an American, she didn't know there was an American Brown because she only knows the English beers. That's unfortunate.
I have no idea in what category. I'm going to guess American Amber because I cannot see this winning as an Oktoberfest.
It's not bad, but if you'll notice, it's. I'll try to clue you in a little further. There's not any hops in there.
Oh, you know what? That's a very good point.
So you eliminate the hops from an American Amber.
It becomes an American Red.
And you eliminate the American from an American Amber. I mean,
I have no idea.
it's a Scottish beer, a Scottish ale. Basically
I
like
can
an 80.
totally see
Oh
that.
yeah, exactly. You drink this beer and you're like,
Yeah.
wow, this is a damn good Scottish. And it really is. It's unfortunate. And
Kelsey guessed Diet Cola.
Diet Cola.
Well, because
Oh,
technically it's all United Kingdom.
right. It's and
UK, Scotland.
yes, and it is the United Kingdom of Great Britain.
That's interesting that we chose to drink this beer on the night that we talk about the Brewing Bowl.
That is true. Because basically we are going to be making, I'd like to think, a slightly scaled down version of this, because this is definitely a Scottish 80. This is a big boy
this
Scottish.
this is an 80,
Right.
But it's
And
really nice.
Scottish, they have shilling designations, 60, 70, and 80, based on how much they're taxed by their alcohol percentage in the beer. It's kind of one of those fun things that, as soon as the government sees somebody making money on something that they would otherwise see as slightly unscrupulous, they will go after it with tax money.
Yeah, it's nothing new.
No.
It's been going on for a long time.
So this is a several hundred-year-old tradition that they come up with these 60, 70, and 80 shilling, but this is a damn good 80 shilling.
Yeah, this is a really, really nice
And,
Scottish 80. I'm very impressed.
I remember seeing it in this afternoon. I was looking. I was like, I could have sworn they won the Oktoberfest category. I hadn't tried the beer until today, until right before the show when we were drinking that first one. And then I was looking today at the category winners, and I noticed that they had won this as a silver, and I was like, huh. Now I'm very curious to try that beer and see what it is, and you can catch it. I mean, it's
Oh, yeah.
it's definitely right there. It doesn't.
Yeah, I mean, the caramel, I think the caramel is definitely what does it. I mean, this has got a really nice caramel flavor to it.
And there's other beers that do that same thing. I saw a beer labeled as a Kolsch win another category completely. I'm drawing a blank as to which category it won, but another of the light German styles, and it won that category. So what a brewer calls something isn't always accurate, because they're trying to get it out to the public. If they think the public knows what a Kolsch is and they don't know what Zickenbrockerburger is, then they're not going to name it the Zickenbrockerburger. So and another one from St. Arnold's, by the way, I'd like to mention they won first for their Kolsch. The St. Arnold's lawnmower.
St. Arnold's lawnmower is.
Yep. It's a very nice
I do
beer.
not like Kolsch. I don't like drinking it, but for what it is,
He does not like green Kolsch and ham.
I do not like it, Sam. I am the St. Arnold's Kolsch. Their lawnmower is an amazing Kolsch.
It's good stuff.
And Kolsch is a very difficult style to make well, and St. Arnold's has just really nailed it. So, we've got a few new viewers here in the last few minutes. What are we going to talk about tonight?
Well, tonight we're going to go a little more in depth with the Brewing Bowl. We're going to talk also about the GABF and some of my miss and regular adventures while we were there. While we, as in I, and hung out a little bit with the RAR folks, and hung out a little bit with other brewers as I volunteered behind some tables in the southeast. I was in a mixed breed tent with some southeastern brewers.
Oh, nice.
And some West Coast brewers. So I had me a really good time. Full Sail was one of the people that we were serving for. Full Sail / session.
Do you want to start with your tales from the Great American Beer Fest?
Sure.
Yeah.
Let's
go there
we can go ahead and talk about that. I told my buddy who lives up in that area that I was going to head up to GABF, and he said, "Well, dude, I'm volunteering. Why don't you volunteer with me?" And I said, "That sounds like a good idea." So we decided we're going to volunteer. In hindsight, we wouldn't have volunteered for 3 shifts like we did, because each shift is about 4 hours of beer pouring, and but each of those shifts, you have to get there an hour and a half early or so, get ready, secure your booth, figure out who you're going to pour for. But at the GABF, it's not like small individual kiosks. It's in long tables at long booths based on your origin or the area where your brewery is located. So where ours were, there were 460 460 breweries serving there. So our booth, our kiosk had, I think, about 40 or 50 different breweries. So up and down and on 2 different sides, you could go and pour for these people. And there were some phenomenal breweries. We had some great times. If any of the Bono's North Carolina brethren are there, poured for Foothills Brewery for a night and a half or so.
I haven't seen them.
So Foothills Brewery is located in, is it Raleigh?
I believe Foothills is in Raleigh. Yeah.
I'm not exactly sure. I believe it's located in the Foothills region of North Carolina.
Winston-Salem.
Yes,
we
that's it.
actually went to Foothills for Matt and Ashley's rehearsal dinner. Yeah, that's an amazing brewery.
And they won 2 medals with 2 of the 5 brews that we were drinking.
That doesn't surprise me.
I mean serving, right? You know, but
that doesn't surprise me at all. Those guys make some really serious beer out at Foothills.
I didn't like their Imperial. Well, I shouldn't take. I take that back. There was a beer that was their most popular, and it was mainly because of name, because it wasn't as good of an American Imperial Stout as I would have liked, but it was called Sexual Chocolate.
Yeah.
And the reason, and I found out later, of course, it wins a gold, and this gold they won for was an oak-aged strong stout. So strong stout, quite a bit different from Imperial Stout. So it was missing a bunch of the hops, and you know that stuff. It wasn't Yeti. It wasn't in your face. So you know I was missing that kind of stuff, but. You know, it's some of those things that if you don't think about exactly what style it is, something can taste bad. Look at this beer right here. If you're thinking you want an Oktoberfest and you grab this, it's not necessarily what you ordered, but it's a great beer nonetheless. So we had a great time. The pouring, what you would do is you would show up and you would get ready, and then you'd fill up your mugs and you'd pour for so long. You know, it's typically people would go for 30 minutes to an hour of pouring, and you always have your own sample glass, so your glass is never empty. People are passing glasses. Oh, you got to try this one. So every beer that won an award that was at your kiosk, you knew it, because if it was good, everybody was serving it to the people behind the booth. You know, that was pretty common. And after 30 minutes or so or an hour, they were like, okay, they'd come and tap you on the shoulder and say, you need to take a break. You know, we'll bring this guy in, and they'd swap you out, and you'd go wander the event, you know, as a paid patron style wander, and go check out whatever booths you wanted and try phenomenal beers. One booth that I'd heard some really good things about this brewery from my fellow Oklahoma brethren, but Coop Brewery.
Coop makes some good
Holy
stuff.
crap. Their beers were very good.
Did you have their Oktoberfest?
I had their no, I didn't have their Oktoberfest.
Very clean, very nice. I really enjoy their Oktoberfest.
They had
did you have their Belgian double?
They had a Belgian double that was good, but Chalk's is phenomenal.
Oh no, I'm sorry. Yeah, Chalk was the one I'm thinking of.
No,
Chalk is great.
Chalk is a phenomenal double that they had. Their quadruple I didn't like so much. It was a little bit too heavy on the unreduced caramel.
See, I haven't had that.
You know, it basically they added the candy sugar, and it's like it's a little cloyingly sweet.
Yeah.
You know, it didn't ferment all the way through, but it was good. But their double is just great. But Chalk has an IPA, their F5 IPA. That's
I didn't have that.
awesome. Yeah, so Coop, or excuse me, not Chalk. Coop has the F5 IPA, and that's a favorite of my friend Keel, who's a meteorologist for the Weather Channel, I think.
Oklahoma's got some great...
I think he stands on the corner when they have weather events, and he's a little Mexican under the umbrella. It's really rainy here. It sucks. You know, that kind of deal.
Oh, yeah, I'm familiar with it.
Okay. Well then,
Oklahoma has some great breweries that have sprouted up just here in the last few years. Or maybe they haven't sprouted up in the last few years, but they've really become a little bit more well distributed here in the last few years. And
they changed the laws and basically allowed there to be breweries, and so a few people that have been waiting to start their stuff are finally starting their stuff. And Coop and Chalk are great breweries. I'm
maybe
shocked that Coop. No kidding, huh? Coop's located in Bricktown, by the way.
Yes.
I'd like to go check Coop out next time I'm up in Oklahoma City. Maybe we'll plan one of our trips to see a Sooners game, and we'll go up Friday and go out. If it's a night game, maybe we can hit their brewery Saturday morning.
Yeah, definitely.
But met the head brewer and owner, and really nice guy. He was, just tickled pink that I loved his beers, and that, that somebody walked up to the booth and was like, I'm from there, Because
that's cool.
He's new.
Oklahomans are kind of a special fraternity too.
Yeah.
Oklahomans really embrace each other.
Yeah, and often the other person doesn't ignore that embrace.
No, certainly not. But no, we're not.
Sorry, I was embracing you.
No,
but we had a great time
Off air.
pouring beer at GABF. You basically spent about 2.5 to 3 hours of your time pouring beer, in about an hour, maybe a little more than an hour, wandering and doing all that stuff. Great time, great event. Over 50,000 people, I think they said, or right around 50,000 people went through there.
Sounds about right.
And it's just great. 2,500 different beers on tap at that event.
Well, good.
And this is where the brewers go. The craft brewers and the micro brewers go to test their mettle against other craft brewers and microbrewers, people that are doing this for a living and selling their products. So they didn't bring their so-so batches. If they brought 3 beers, they were good.
And one thing, and we've talked about this on the show in the past, where we have some new viewers since then, so let's just discuss the competition between brewers, because it's not like the competition in other industries. With brewers, there's a lot more camaraderie, I think, and the competition is definitely friendly, and brewers are not at all bashful about complimenting each other's work. So as Kyle receives a text message about punch-sizing somebody's face,
Berger says that his chat isn't working. Try downloading a new Java or Mozilla or Google Chrome.
Try using Mozilla or Google Chrome.
It's Internet Explorer with old Java that tends to be having this problem right now. Richard has a link to the new Java on just directly underneath the chat window or where it says live chat. There's a click here and download this. Give that a shot. It'll probably work for you. But
So back to the brewers. Brewers are not at all bashful about complimenting each other's work or patting each other.
And he said he had Coop last year at Oklahoma's Oktoberfest.
Coop is at a really good brewery.
Really, I had 4 of their 5 beers while I was sitting there, and they were all phenomenal. I was impressed, very impressed. They had an Imperial Stout, I believe, and it was great beer. I'm sorry, go ahead. Didn't mean to interrupt.
Oh, that's okay. I was rambling anyway.
Okay.
Do you want to talk about the Brewing Bowl?
Yeah, let's talk about the Brewing Bowl, man.
That was a nice segue. We forgot what we were talking about.
Well, we were talking about
moving
Oklahoma.
On to the next, we were talking about Oklahoma, and
so we might as well be.
Yeah, and brewers, they compete. It's fun.
Yeah, they don't compete. They only compete against BMC. They only compete against the guys selling 95% of the beer. Not afraid to tell each other a few trade secrets here and there. They've got websites where they go to and chat rooms where the professional brewers will go and basically, troubleshoot with each other. Oh, shoot, I got this flavor. Is there anything I can do to save this $1,500 I just spent on material to make a beer?
Right.
It's not like when we brew and we go, oh, darn it, I wasted $12 on raw material.
$12 we'll never see again.
Yeah.
Too bad, guys.
We're more worried about the 4 hours and then the next 2 weeks, 3 weeks where we don't get to try that beer. So, the competition with those guys. I spent some time with some of the folks over there at Raw Brewery. Met Noah and his wife. Noah's their new salesman.
Cool.
I hung out with Austin, and then of course Nick Goodman and Matt Westlake and his wife, and they had a small group up there, and it was just a lot of fun. Did a half a day with those guys, wandering around a couple breweries and a couple establishments, and we had some great beers.
Sounds like fun, man.
Yeah. Oh, Russian River. Did you ever get any Russian River beers? Oh.
And where's Russian River based?
Russian River, I'm going to have to say Russian River was, yes.
Very astute.
Yes.
Thank you,
No,
Ted.
Russian River's Midwest. I think Indiana or somewhere like that. Somebody in the audience can look it up for us. But they may be even further north than that. But they do a lot of Belgian-style beers. The supplication that they have, it's a true sour, and it's fantastic. It's wonderful, wonderful.
Excellent.
You just don't normally get that stuff outside of Belgium, so those are good beers. Had some of the raspberry tart, which won in a medal, which is
And who makes that?
It's Nuclearis, Wisconsin.
Okay.
Makes some great beers.
So there's some really good beers made in Wisconsin. A lot of really tiny breweries. It seems like there's a brewery on every corner there in Wisconsin,
Yep.
and most of them don't distribute nationally. Like they're very, very local.
Eating sushi here local one time and a little while back, and I see a guy walk in in a BYOB sushi place with a 12-pack of New Glarus, and I
Nice.
said, "You didn't get that from around here." Where are you guys from? Oh, we're from Wisconsin. We just drove in. I'll trade you. So we did a little beer trading while we were there
Nice.
eating. It was really good. So, we
Brew
mentioned
Bowl.
Coop in Oklahoma City.
Coop.
Sooners are
Chalk.
also real near Oklahoma City.
Yeah, they're pretty close.
They play a lot of football
Yeah, they do.
in Norman. And we like football, especially college football. So that brings us to our Brew and Bowl.
That's right.
We
Because college football is full of bowl season.
bowl season. It's like heaven in a glass for us brewers watching TV. Heaven in a TV, maybe.
Sooners
something.
are cheaters. Thank you for pointing that out, Tim.
Yes, that's true.
Sooners are cheaters.
Our motto, or Boomer Sooner that we yell. Boomer was the people that actually bided their time and waited to steal the Indians' land, and then the Sooners were the ones that stole it beforehand. So,
So this year's bowl season, actually bowl season from now on, is going to be especially fun because we're going to be brewing beer.
Brew and Bowl.
Every
Last year we kicked off our
the big bowl day every year is January 1st. We kicked it off this year
Yep.
with just a stellar dry stout.
Yep.
And this year we let you, the audience, mostly the studio audience, but there were a few people chiming in from around the globe, and we settled on making a strong Scotch ale.
Yep, strong
So,
Scotch.
Let's talk a little bit about the strong Scotch. I pulled up the BJCP guidelines just so we can take a look.
Okay, that's good.
They talk about the flavor is going to have some rich maltiness with kettle caramelization apparent. Where's
Yum,
the
yum,
kettle?
yum.
Where's the kettle caramelization going to come from?
That comes from a long boil, typically. It can come from other types of things like a decoction mash, but the most common way to get that in is with just a long boil. So you're going to boil this beer for an hour and 20 minutes instead of boiling it for 60 minutes. And what that does is caramelizes the sugars in there, so some of those sugars will not ferment completely out, and you'll have more of a sugary taste. But at the same time, you're going to be evaporating a lot of the excess water.
Absolutely.
So you're going to have a big-bodied, big alcohol beer.
Yeah, and obviously the more water you evaporate, the less water is in your beer, which of course makes your beer stronger. Now that was an interesting noise. I don't think you folks at home heard it, but it
They
was
may have.
really weird. Actually, yeah, they might have. It was right into the microphone. So next on the flavor, it says that hints of roasted malt or a smoky flavor may be present, such as may some nutty character. I really like the idea of putting just a little bit of a smoky flavor, like a peat type.
You want to go with the peat? I was going to say I'm a little bit weary of hitting the peat in there because it's so easy to go overboard.
I don't want to hit it too hard. Just this tiniest bit of peat, because I love the smell of peat, and I think it would be nice to be in peat smoke. Peat.
He loves the smell of peat.
P-E-A-T. Not a guy.
Oh, we're back with you. Our
Not
studio
a
audience
guy
and I
that
are
you
back
know
with you.
whose name
We
is
thought you loved the
Pete,
smell of pee.
but like peat smoke.
No, we just thought you loved the smell of urine.
Oh, pee.
Yes,
Oh.
pee.
I guess that's because I don't enunciate.
Well, it's because you cleaned the kegs last week out of the bathroom.
And I did clean the kegs.
And they smelled
There was some
awful.
raunchy smells coming out of those kegs. So yeah, I'd really like to get like a little bit of a smoky, like a peaty type of smoke coming out of this beer.
And
I
if
think-
we get that, like I said, we'll discuss this when we come up with our recipe. And we'll, because this is something I'm a little bit in a disagreement with
All
you.
right,
I'd
well,
like to
let's-
stay away.
Let's let
so
the
we'll leave
audience
this up to
decide.
the audience.
Let's let the audience decide. We'll do that during our malt bill episode.
So they're saying
So-
we can get some nuttiness, we can get some caramelization, we can get some...
Hop flavor and bitterness is going to be low to medium low, so that this is going to be a big sweet beer. And in fact, if you look in the BJCP at the overall impression, it says that you want it to be rich, malty, and sweet, which can be suggestive of a dessert. This is going to be a big, sweet, caramely beer. A little bit of toast, hopefully a little bit of smoke, if
Yep.
you ask me. But really, this is going to be a really exciting beer. And we were talking earlier about the Scottish 80. We talked about the various different strengths of Scottish beer, and this is basically the strongest of Scottish beers.
basically a
It's all-
120.
Yeah, it's
we
all-
said 60, 70, 80. This is a 120.
I thought this was a 90.
90 plus.
Oh
is
yeah,
what they
I'm
call.
sorry, yeah, 90 plus, which
Yeah.
can also be called a wee heavy.
Yeah, it's a
So
wee heavy.
actually, and all of you, I think, can get this at home. go to your local beer store and pick up a bottle of Bellhaven Wee Heavy. This is a phenomenal representation of
that's
the
your
style.
homework out there, everybody.
And one of my favorite beers. I'm gonna go ahead and put it up in the chat room so that people can go pick it up.
Hey, how about we do that as next week's beer? Or are we going to do one last Oktoberfest?
Let's do 2 more Oktoberfest because, well, technically Oktoberfest is over the day before our October 4th show.
Okay.
Well, let's do our last Oktoberfest on October 4th. And then October, that would be 11th, let's do the Bellhaven Wee Heavy.
Okay.
So next week, you guys can do whatever you want.
Yeah.
For the last week, let's do real Oktoberfest.
And so make sure you take this home as homework, everybody, and go drink a Bellhaven, a Wee Heavy, for those of you who haven't had it. And for those of you who have, go buy another one and drink it, because we're going to be discussing the style next week. I'm going to buy a bottle or 2 next week just to try before the show, so that when we're discussing some of this stuff next week, I know a little bit more of what I'm talking about. And you can, when you experience that kind of thing, when you taste the flavor, you remember subtle things that you may have forgotten from the last go-round. So this beer that we're looking to make, we're gonna want to make it to style. We're gonna want to see how this beer does.
We're gonna try to call our shot here as best as we can.
It's a difficult thing to do.
Well,
I wonder if
this is gonna be too big to enter in this year's Bluebonnet. But if it's good enough, let's say 2012 Bluebonnet, we enter it. I think it can sit for a year.
If it can sit that long. Otherwise, we can. That's a good beer to enter in the Celtic, which is a June competition.
The other Celtic would be perfect.
The Celtic, we're going to shoot for a low. I'd like to shoot for a lower alcohol version. Somewhere in the range of an 8%, maybe 9% at the most, but maybe even down as far as 7.5%. And that way, if we've got that low of an alcohol percentage, it should be ready in 6 months.
Okay.
And so that's kind of where I'm going at.
Second runnings should be ready in time for Bluebonnet.
Yes, we can definitely run off the second.
So let's talk a little bit about second runnings. For those of you unfamiliar with the brewing process,
it's not cool runnings. This is different.
It's not cool runnings. It's a lot warmer than that. It's even hot.
Mm-hmm.
Essentially, the first step in the brewing process, the first major step, is to soak the grains in hot water. And what you're doing there is you're sucking, you're releasing all of the sugary, just delicious goodness out of those grains and into the water, where they're going to eventually get fermented and become beer. Well, for the Scotch ale, we're going to need a big beer. So think of it as brewing coffee. The first pot of coffee you brew is going to be big and strong, but the grains aren't done. Just because
coffee beans.
Right. Just because you took a pot of coffee doesn't mean that you can't make more coffee out of those same beans. It's just going to be weaker. So that's what we're going to do here is we're going to take the first run of the juices from those grains, and we're going to make a Scotch ale.
Yeah, I like that that description there, that simile, if you will. If you're going through there and you've got your filter full of coffee, and you need this much to do 12 cups,
right?
We're going to fill it to the brim to do 12 cups.
And then there's still going to be some more left to do another 12 cups of a weaker coffee.
But at that point, you're going to make a coffee that's so strong, it's going to be like an espresso. But the second runnings are going to be more like a normal cup of coffee. So we're not doing like a regular cup of coffee and a weak cup of coffee.
We're doing a really big cup of coffee and then a normal one.
Yeah. Shot of espresso. Shot of espresso and then a 12-cup pot. That's what you got.
So remember what we talked about earlier with the different strengths of Scotch ale, and the different strengths of Scotch ale all taste basically the same. They're just some are bigger, and some have bigger, more flavor, and some have less flavor. But the flavor is the same. So we're gonna be able to take the second runnings from this Wee Heavy and make a Scottish 50 or Scottish 60 maybe.
Yeah. Oh, I would think we'd get at least a Scottish 60.
I would think a 60 would be entirely within reason. But we can take a stab at it after it's been made.
And Richard was wondering if we were ever going to make a crack flavored beer.
Maybe. We are in Fort Worth,
right?
So, yeah, I mean that's maybe if we were down off of Lancaster.
Okay.
Yeah, so
Richard, this is in Houston.
And Kelsey actually was wondering how she can buy some Dogleg Brewery beer.
It
And
is not legal.
It is not
for
legal
those of us
for
who are
us
not
to sell it.
professionals.
So contact us off the air, and we'll maybe discuss an arrangement.
We'll get you some beer.
We'll get you some beer.
So,
And it's gonna be really good. Holy cow! Half an hour has already gone by.
Wow.
I had more to say. That's okay. We can say a little bit more. Why not?
hey, we're going to run over tonight,
Who's
folks.
looking?
We've got beer left. We've got words left to talk about beer. So they seem to have come together for the right time.
We also said we would discuss naming our beer.
Naming our beer, we did discuss that.
So we're both actually, we like to name our beers sort of silly stuff.
Right. We like it to be witty.
Yeah, the Limey Tart. I think of the La Vida Mocha is my
Levita
personal
Mocha,
favorite.
Limey Tart. We have the Golden Nugget. What are some of our other beers? The Brown Note. Brown
Yeah,
Note's
my
a good
dad
one.
already bailed. He didn't waste any time.
Man, well, maybe you can text him back. Hey, old man,
I'm going to
Time
text
to-
him right now.
we're not really done.
Jeez, Dad.
Oh, the Cialis may have kicked in.
Yeah,
It's
that's a good point.
it's one of those, for when the time strikes you.
All right,
Our mood
that's
strikes-
enough.
Or maybe it's just that it's been 4 hours and he's consulting his physician.
And actually, my buddy Chris suggested maybe it was my dad's bedtime. Well, I wish it would also play into the Cialis thing.
It is giggity 30 in the East Coast.
Ew.
Oh man, yeah, we're getting our pints are getting low.
Maybe it is time to shut down the program.
No, I'm having a good time. Let's go. Come on, I hope our people out there are
All right,
laughing
so-
with us.
So let's look at some fun ways we can name this. So let's look at some Scottish. I think stereotypes are always fun.
Stereotypes are fun. We could do like Scottish stuff,
Something
like
having
along
to do
the
with
lines,
a kilt or bagpipes. Or
right? And Mike Myers always did that great Scottish impression of his dad doing an impression.
melon on a toothpick could be a
Yes.
fun name for the beer.
Melon on a toothpick.
Melon on a toothpick.
Looks like Sputnik.
It's-
Oh man.
and somebody said no, Cialis killer. No, come on, lay off the Cialis, guys.
All right.
Look at you started, you jerk.
And if your dad was at home drinking and taking Cialis, I'd like to caution him not to drink while taking Cialis in the future. They recommend not to have alcohol while you're having a 4-hour
God.
erection. And I have sufficiently embarrassed Bono, maybe for the first time.
I wouldn't say embarrassed so much as like just like nauseated. Like I think that's the proper verb to go in there.
Can't handle your alcohol.
All right, the chat room loves Cialis. I don't.
So we may have stumbled on our beer name.
I think
Our beer may
Doc
be the
Cialis might be Cialis. There it is, Cialis.
Cialis. I like that. A-L-A-L-E, a little pun, play on words, if you will.
Ale, because ale is a type of beer.
Right, this will be a Scotch ale.
Yeah.
So-
Scotch Alis.
Scotch ale.
Scotch Alis. No, we're getting.
What do they call a
we're getting
C
a
over
no from the studio audience,
What do they-
and 2 thumbs down, and the rest of the studio audience is asleep. So there you can tell they're enjoying the show.
Scotty's kettle brewed ale with a little dog. Gross. Kettle brewed with a little dog?
Well, I kind of like that Scotty's kettle brewed ale.
But
I think
we're
that-
gonna
I think
brew
that's
with a dog? That's
No, that's disgusting.
but it is a good play on name with the dog
with
leg.
the Scotty Terrier, and
Yeah.
I think that's a good start.
Those are funny looking dogs
Kettle-
too. You could get one of those like
Scotty's
different
kettle-
ears in different directions.
Scotty's kettle caramelized with a terrier stirring a bowl on the label. That's Kelsey's good.
Look, already coming up with labels,
that's
too.
Rich's sister, isn't
Yeah,
it?
you
Oh,
got
that makes a lot of
creative.
sense then.
You got creative all throughout that family right there. So yeah, that's good stuff. Scotty doesn't know. Yeah, and that's funny.
Oh, Scotty's an idiot.
So we've got quite a few things already. I mean,
think
we got the Scotty thing. I like that.
Look at what Tim threw up there. C. Alice Ale. Oh yeah, you can look at it
Yeah.
over there too. I like it.
Yeah.
They talk like just found their new product manager. Yes, excellent point, Tommy.
Okay.
We have a marketing manager in the Faz, and now we have a product manager in Kelsey.
So we're focusing more on our on the Scotty. That's a good thing.
Berger points out that the Highlander is Scottish.
The Highlander is Scottish.
I believe there's a Highlander ale already, though, isn't there?
Yeah, and actually I poured for Highland Gaelic Ale and the Oatmeal Stout. You remember those two beers on the East Coast?
Yeah,
I poured
those
both
are
of
really
those.
good.
Their brewer did not come with, so I just got to describe and pour those beers. It was a lot of fun. You know, I played the ever forceful salesman, you know, reaching across the table and pouring beer into people's glasses as they walked by, whether they wanted it or not. You know, it's
nice.
It's fun, man. I mean, you can, you know, I had my first night I poured for Rolling Hills Brewery in Spokane, Washington, and this guy brewed some really good beers, but he was like borderline devoid of all personality. It was kind of like talking
to an engineer.
It was like talking to a paper bag. So
an engineer.
The whole event I spent trying to describe these beers to a lot of people, especially the Thursday night crowd, was not a beer connoisseur crowd. So you had to dump things down so they know what you're talking about. And so he's making...
This is beer.
He made basically a blonde, and he made a dark American lager that was out of style. It was like a brown ale with lager yeast. It was a really clean brown lager.
Yeah.
And so trying to describe that to people, I often described it as a brown ale, and he got mad at me like every time. It's a lager. I'm like, they don't know what that is.
They don't know the difference.
It's no big deal, man. I just grabbed these two people that would have otherwise never tried your beer, gave them this beer, and they loved it. You know, you got to get people in there too. I mean, there were really good beers. The guy
you
had
gotta
some good beers.
Your beer.
You got to sell it. So
you ready to shut this thing down?
Let's shut this thing down. We've got the thought process in people's mind to name these beers. A couple of pretty good suggestions for the day. I think we can go with a few more. The dogs are playing now.
C Alice Ale, SEA Alice Ale with a mermaid on the label. On that note, I think it's time to shut down. So thank you to everyone for tuning in. We really appreciate your support.
Maybe a mermaid caught in a tuna fishing net.
I'm not going to be here next week. We want to share something about that before we leave?
Bono is not going to be here this next week.
I'm not.
We'll bring on a guest host. Bono is actually trying a new experimental procedure. It's called a beer colonic.
It's. I'm not sure that I'll be recovered from my beer colonic in time for the show.
But he's had enough colonics that he's going to try the Imperial beer colonic.
Right.
And it's a little stronger than your normal colonic. But
I'll show up the following week cleansed of all my beer toxins and ready to go. So until then, please remember that we are not professionals.
So please try this at home. That's fun stuff. It's a good show.
No,
that's a good show.
The Imperial Beer Colonic does not involve Darth Vader. Thank you for asking, Tommy.
Oh, it's Dark Vader. It's a Imperial stout.
Dark Ale Vader, Cialis Vader.
Oh God, that is awful.